do see a lot of familiar faces on here that I've worked with in the past. And just so you know, Alvarado only sells through a network of dealer installers because we are a manufacturer. And we like to work with people that are very familiar in our industry and very seasoned in our industry and can not only sell the products that are needed by the industry and know where they go and to sell the best product for every occasion, to know what a customer would need, that would provide them value and take care of the issues, the security issues that they're currently experiencing. And IPS is one of the best of those. And you know, Paul and Adam and Frank and I've worked with so many out of that office, and they can tell you that, you know, when we have opportunities, we bring those to IPS because we know they're going to do a great job for us, and we have a lot of experience in doing those. So thanks, Paul, for the thumbs up. I know we've worked together on quite a few projects, and they've all been successful. We've rescued projects from other folks, and we've a lot of experience in doing a lot of that. But I'm going to jump right in on some of these products, and I don't know where we're starting as far as knowledge base on turnstiles. It's my boss Nick likes to say it's not anyone's everyday diet but ours. You know, I do this every day, but turnstiles are not going to be your everyday diet. So I'm going to kind of start at the beginning here, and if this is very basic, I apologize, but again, I don't know really where we're starting, so I'm just going to kind of start at the beginning, and I won't belabor too many points. I'm just going to kind of hit these areas, and then at the end of each section, we'll just kind of stop and do a little question and answer thing. So at the end, once we talk about full height turnstiles, excuse me, once we start about full height turnstiles, then we'll stop and do a question and answer that, and then we'll do optical turnstiles and on down the line. So take some notes on the questions that you might have, but I'm going to roll through. It's just a little PowerPoint thing, and I know those can be boring. I'm going to try to make it not boring for you. So let's get started with that. Okay, Alvarado is part of the Dormicaba group. That happened a few years ago. For 60 plus years, Alvarado was just I say a small business. I mean, we were a $50 million business, but we were family owned for all of that time. Now we are owned by Dormicaba Group. It's actually been a really good thing for us. A lot of times when those acquisitions happen, a lot of stuff changes, but Alvarado was already very successful in the turnstile space, and that's why we were acquired. And so they just kind of came in and said, hey, here's some extra resources, just keep doing what you're doing, and it's worked out pretty well.
Steve,
yeah,
is your PowerPoint up now?
Should be. Are you not seeing it?
Because we can't see it.
Okay, hold on, let me go back and make sure I'm sharing,
or at least I can't.
You know what?
I see your smiling face.
Yeah, hold on. You don't want to see any more than that. You need to. Let me know when you see the my screen.
I can see your screen now. Yeah, it's like the condensed. It's not the full screen. There we go.
All right, there we go.
Good to go.
All right, good deal. So let's just go on down through here. So this just kind of tells you who we are and what being a part of Dormicaba Group has done for us, and it has expanded the product line for us. It's given us a lot more resources around the world to do some work. Dormicaba is really big in Europe too, so it's helped us over on that side of the globe to do a lot of things that we weren't able to do before. We could get our products over there, but we didn't have on the ground resources in every place like we do now. Okay, so we're going to talk about the most effective environments, places where we see these turnstiles, where you might see a full height, where you might see an optical turnstile, those types of places, how to recognize why end users might need these, and then look at proper use cases for these turnstiles. So we're going to see in the commercial space, corporate lobbies, fence lines is a big thing, especially like when you see a manufacturing plant, you'll see these in the fence lines, and parking lots for employee entrances, those types of things. You will see these in fulfillment centers a lot. As Adam knows, Amazon is really big on these types of turnstiles in their fulfillment centers. You'll see them inside as well as outside. Sorting centers, processing centers, that's all pretty much the same thing. For healthcare, we are seeing an increase in optical turnstile use and gates inside hospitals. They will use visitor management systems, so you'll see someone print off a a barcode that's good for a few hours or maybe a day, and then it expires at the end of the day. Those types of things. Any areas where they want to restrict access, obviously that's what a turnstile does. You're going to see those in hospitals. Again, that's being an increase that we've seen. And then in higher education, it's been amazing, really, in the higher education space, the recreation centers. So we kind of got into that because one of our competitors was in Auburn University, and they were having some problems, and they tried to work through it, couldn't really get where they needed to go. So they called us, we came in, took those out, put in the what you'll see is it's called the SU5000. It's our most popular optical turnstile, and it went really well. So the next time they had their NERSA trade show, which is a trade show just for rec center directors at universities, they had a round table, and man, Auburn just talked really highly of the SU5000. And since then, we have done so many of those. Large universities, small universities, everything from Ohio State to Cleveland State, from Alabama to community colleges. So everywhere, they all need security. And so it's become really popular in those rec centers, as well as not so much in, it says student housing, not so much in the housing, but the dining halls, definitely. We've seen them in dining halls, libraries. Temple University over in Philadelphia, they'll integrate them with their book detection systems as well. So you can integrate a lot of different things like that book detection or metal detection or those types of things with the turnstile. So if it alarms, the turnstile is not available. So if it alarms, the turnstile will not open, allow the person to go out or to come in, however that works. But higher ed is, when I came into this, I wouldn't have expected higher education to be a big market for something like an optical turnstile, but it definitely has been. All right, so I'm trying to move this. I'm going to minimize this here. So why turnstiles? We just talked about it. It's really pretty simple. Anytime you're wanting to restrict access from one place to another, you want to allow people in that are supposed to be there, keep people out that are not supposed to be there. And people will try to sneak in places through methods called tailgating or piggybacking. Those are actually two different things. One is sneaking in behind somebody before the gate closes, or leaving while somebody's coming in, taking advantage of that gate being open. And so people will try to sneak in that way. And so anytime that somebody needs to control access in that manner, that's where you're going to look for turnstiles. Sometimes they'll integrate these in with their time and attendance. Security wise, if you've been in the security industry, you try to keep those separate. You try to keep security and time and attendance separate. Sometimes they are integrated. I'm working a job in Dayton right now that it's full height turnstiles, and they're wanting to do time and attendance with that. There are some things that you have to incorporate as well, such as a visual indicator to let somebody know their card was read. You have to have a clock there, those types of things. But we're going to focus just on the security side, keeping the good guys having access and keeping the bad guys out. That's the thing. Anytime you have an area, here's another thing to think about. Anytime you have an area where you have a large number of employees inside that area, and you're going to have the ability to, at some point, if somebody's fired for some reason, and you want to disable that badge, you can disable that badge and not allow that person back in. It's important to be able to do those types of things. Or if somebody has some trouble and you want to make sure that person's not coming back in and causing harm to everybody else in the facility, you want to look for those types of environments. When you come in and you say, wow, there's free access from the street into this area where 300 people are working, have you thought about controlling access here? Because the days of, we never expected that would happen here at our place, those days are over. That's not an excuse anymore. So I hate to use the phrase that we sell fear. That's not what we're trying to do, but we're really selling the reality of the situation. Is if you have a lot of people in one space, you have the burden, you have the responsibility of protecting those people. And that's selling it really to the workforce too, because when you start putting turnstiles in, some of your workforce might say, hold on, what are you trying to do here? And it's a matter of saying, we're trying to protect you. That's really what we're trying to do. We're not trying to control you. We're not trying to monitor you. We're trying to protect you. So that kind of gives you an idea of why turnstiles might be used in different situations. So use case, we're talking about physical barriers. They have the tailgate detection. They can alarm and let somebody know when somebody's trying to piggyback or tailgate. And these things, these turnstiles, if it's a full height turnstile, it's not going to allow somebody in. But on these optical turnstiles, it's going to alarm locally, and then it's going to give you an output to let you know something happened in that space. That's how it controls this. If somebody ever tells you that their optical turnstiles prevent tailgating or piggybacking, run. They don't. They can't. They detect it. They can't prevent it, because if you're going to prevent it, that means you have to slam that door shut and hit somebody, contact somebody, and nobody's going to do that. You can integrate these things with cameras or any other thing really to take a note of that. So you say you have an alarm that goes off, that output is just a generic output. You can make it take a photo of the area, mark your video or whatever it is that you want to do to make sure that you make note of that. But all these turnstiles are capable of being fully integrated with access control systems, as well as any of those third-party systems such as cameras. These full height turnstiles to detect and prevent unauthorized access at the earliest possible point in the building is the primary objective. That's a very true statement. Turnstiles provide risk mitigation that buildings require. So these full height turnstiles really provide you that one-to-one security. You get one card read, one person's coming in. Can you squeeze two people into that space? You can. It's going to be uncomfortable, or you better be really friendly because it's a tight spot. But it's kind of like the perfect size. I mean, we have small people that go through these things and very large people that go through these things without issue. But for some reason, you put two people in there and you try to navigate the turnstile, it's not easy to do. But you can do it. If you wanted to minimize that space, these turnstiles have 3 arms that create that space. You can actually get one that has 4 arms or 4 directions, kind of like a plus symbol, and it cuts that space down a little bit, and then you really can't get 2 people in, but also larger people will have a hard time going through it. These are the first line of defense. People use them for theft prevention. Again, you can put these, you can integrate them with metal detection. I have a project in Louisville right now that has this very thing. This turnstile will have a little tunnel that comes off the front of it, and you integrate your metal detection into that, and you go through that metal detector. If it goes off, the turnstile will not rotate. The turnstile is locked down. It won't work. So that's kind of a use case for the full height turnstiles. These are the ones you'll see in manufacturing plants. You'll also see them in fulfillment centers. But this particular one right here is called the CPST. It's a clear panel turnstile. You see those curved sections on the side. Those are clear acrylic. And then the arms, you'll kind of see there on the right side of that photo, you can see the little extrusion that holds that acrylic panel. And then behind it, you see the arms of the turnstile are actually acrylic too. This is a way to kind of soften up a very hard looking turnstile. If you don't want it to look like a prison, and you'll see these, this is a Cyrus 1 location, and I only know that because I can see it in the reflection back there, whoever took the photo. Anyway, I'm sorry, Cyrus 1, but that's you'll see these in data centers. Data centers like to use these because they are high security, and they're also kind of softened up a little bit. They kind of have a little bit more of an executive look to them rather than the full just galvanized or even stainless steel or powder coated turnstile. So there's an idea. If you have any if you have any data centers are high security areas, this is the type of thing that they will look for. Life safety. All of our turnstiles have dedicated inputs on their I/O board for life safety. So whether it's a full height turnstile or an optical turnstile, or what we'll see later, the security revolving doors, you bring a dry contact from your fire alarm out and you land it on that I/O board in the proper place. And that turnstile, if it's a full height turnstile, it's going to free spin rotate towards the exit direction. So you're going to be able to leave freely under an alarm. The optical turnstiles like you're seeing here, this is the SU5000. Whenever that alarm goes off, those barriers are going to open automatically towards the exit direction and allow free egress from the building. Once that alarm is satisfied, those barriers will go back to right, just as you see them right now, to the controlled passage. It's also available with elevator dispatch. So you can put these turnstiles in an area that has multi-tenant. So you have, let's just say, What's an example? In Philadelphia, I have a building that has 2 towers. On the left tower is a law office. On the right tower is residential. So when you come to the elevators, there is a bank of these type of turnstiles there, and whatever badge that you have will correspond to where you're allowed to go in the building. And this turnstile will actually dispatch that elevator to any area to which you have access, and it'll prevent you from going to areas where you don't need to have access. So if you have a building, then you're doing the security in the building, and you're trying to control access to certain parts of the building, and that's using elevators to get places. Talk to IPS about elevator dispatch and how you can integrate that into the turnstile, because it's definitely a possibility. You can definitely do that. We talked about metal detection already and secondary doors. Tailgate attempts trigger an alarm by the turnstile so that the output is secondary. It'll send that signal to either a camera, or you can send that signal to a secondary set of doors that's in front of that person. So if you get a tailgate, those doors won't open. So we just talked about multi-tenant. So if the building doesn't have physical security equipment and relies on local guard staff to monitor entry of over like 500 people, those types of buildings, prime areas for turnstiles. Those are the areas that are where these turnstiles are going to be of the highest value to this type of building. And the optical turnstiles, the cool thing about the optical turnstiles, it's going to tell you everything that happens in that lane. They're really intelligent. So while it will not prevent tailgating and piggybacking for legal reasons, you don't want to contact somebody or hurt somebody, so for safety reasons, I should say. But it's going to tell you everything that happens. You want to be able to respond to those alarms, but it's going to tell you what happened in that lane. And that's perfect for a multi-tenant place. It looks fantastic, and it also gives you every bit of information you need to have happen at that lane, and also control people from going to certain areas where they're not supposed to go. Retrofit solutions. If you look at this is the 5000 as well. The very base of this, these turnstiles, usually these anchor directly down into the ground. Down through that tile into the concrete is usually where these will anchor. Well, this must be a retrofit area where the conduit locations maybe were, because on this, the conduit's going to come up into the center of that turnstile lane. That center, I'll call it a post for lack of a better term, but you have 3 areas that contact the ground. That center area is where all of your conduit needs to come up into. Well, if you're retrofitting something and maybe your conduit is in a different location, these base plates like this help you utilize the same conduit holes, and then you can flex over into that center cabinet or that center column there to get your conduit over there. You can also get these in a full base plate. Say the floor was messed up or whatever else, and I'll have a photo that I'll show you of the full base plate earlier. So anytime you want to retrofit something and they're not going to completely replace the floor, just talk to IPS about that, and they have a solution through Alvarado to be able to help you do a retrofit of turnstiles into a space and make it look fantastic like this does. Maybe areas where you don't want to core drill into the floor as well. So if you have an area, I covered DC and Philadelphia, and there are a lot of historic buildings where they're not going to let you penetrate the floor. So we have to utilize base plates and keep all of the wiring and conduit above finished floor. And we have a solution for that. I'll show you in a little bit. I want to point out one more thing on this. You'll see that little pedestal, or that little post there that holds that reader. Usually the reader will go under the lid of that turnstile. But if you have something larger, or maybe this is probably like a temperature scanner or something like that, we can help create some kind of a mount to go into the turnstile. We still do custom solutions. So if you have a different type of a reader or something that has to be on the outside of the turnstile, again, just talk to IPS, tell them what you're trying to do, and we'll work with them to create a custom solution for you. All right, the fulfillment and distribution center. This has been a big thing for us, and I'm glad they blurred out that Amazon there. Good grief. But Amazon has I think like 10,000 of these across the country, and they're working great for them. They're not the only ones. Zulily has them as well, and a lot of other fulfillment centers. So anytime you go into an area that's kind of a fulfillment type place, whether it might be JCPenney or any of those types of places, if you don't see turnstiles, you probably will. But if you don't, or if it's a new a new place, a new fulfillment center, you're definitely going to want to ask about those because they definitely will be having those turnstiles. Um, this just goes into talking more about how you utilize metal detection, not only for theft, but also to detect weapons and things like that. Um, Again, these full height turnstiles integrate into any access control system. The turnstile is really just looking for a dry contact closure. It doesn't care where it comes from. Nick likes to say we're just a dumb animal. We're just looking for a signal and we'll do what we're told. But the turnstile really just looks for that dry contact. You can send it through a push button or an access control system, or anything that can send that dry contact will work with this turnstile. And the more we see a rise in that e-commerce space, the more you're going to see these. This is talking about just some options that are available on the turnstile. You see there on the, it says Georgia Tech on those barriers, those moving barriers. We can do any logo on that. And we can also do them on the side barriers there, or the side panels there as well. So all we need is just like a vector file of whatever kind of logo they want to put on there. And you can etch your logo on there. I've also seen like Blue Cross Blue Shield uses this in their corporate buildings, and they'll use the high barriers. They did not want us to etch them. They actually get like an applique made that's colored, because anything that we do is going to be this white color. They'll have like that blue cross, and they'll just use the applique on there, which works fine as well. They do that. That's by others. We don't do that, but that's something that you could do. You can powder coat these different colors. There's lots of different things that you can do. You'll see that blue light that's on the side there of that turnstile. You can actually do any color along that LED palette of colors. Typically they're blue at rest, and then when you scan your badge, it'll turn green. And then when it goes into alarm, it'll flash red. So that's the LED lighting, and then the etching as well. So we've done quite a few case studies on the optical turnstiles. I think this one was specific to COVID stuff, so I'm actually not going to hit this, but I'll tell you what this product here is, the SU3000. So where the 5000 has, let's go back. This one has these barriers in front of you. These will open away from you. So as you scan your badge and it opens away from you, whether you're going in or whether you're coming out, those barriers always open away from you. This right here, these barriers drop straight down. And then after you go through and it recognizes you've gone through, these barriers come back up. Why does somebody choose one versus another? The price difference is minimal, to be honest with you. And the great scheme of things, it's really going to come down to aesthetics. What does somebody, how do they want it to look, is probably a greater concern to people that I've seen anyway than the price, because the price of them is pretty close, honestly. You can powder coat this, you can change the lid color, but the functionality of the thing is going to be the same. The information it gives you is going to be exactly the same. It just looks different. The actuation of that barrier is a little bit different. All right, and this is something that you'll see. This is a pretty typical deployment of a full height turnstile. This is in the fence line. The fence line is a black coated fence, and so we did the turnstile in black. And then right beside it, you're going to see something called the maximum security gate, and that's a big, robust gate. I don't know what that thing weighs. I'm going to say it probably weighs 400 pounds, maybe more. I mean, it's a heavy duty gate. The gates that we make are 48 inches wide passage width. The reason is we did do a 36-inch gate. We don't promote a 36-inch gate now. I can get it, but we make all of our gates 48 inches wide because everyone was asking, can you make that gate wider? So we just made it wider. And then you'll see beside that gate is an infill section as well that kind of matches the look. We make those as well, and those are all custom made. So any size of that barrier that you need, we can do. The gate itself, I'll touch that real quick, and then I'm going to stop and do some questions, just because this presentation that I was sent isn't going just, I guess it does go through some of the different products, but I was hoping that it was going through just products by type. But these gates, the gates have there's a lot of different, they all look the same, but whether it's fail safe or fail secure, whether they need to have a panic bar or a push bar on the backside, there's a lot of different variations of this gate. And those are really the big questions that you need to ask is, one, are you going to use card readers for entry and exit, or both or neither? And you can do it on one side or the other. Is it going to be fail safe or fail secure? And then do you need to have panic hardware on the exit side of that or push bar on the exit side of that? Those are really the three big questions that we need to know as far as the gate goes. But you'll see this in a lot of areas, especially areas that need to have ADA access. So if you need to have special needs access, you're going to have this gate beside the turnstile. No matter what anybody tells you, no matter how big that turnstile is, as far as I know, there's no such thing as an ADA turnstile because you still have to push your way through that turnstile. So you're going to have this gate beside it. And this is a pretty typical deployment. So before I move on, do we have any questions? We want to go back and talk about anything that I've covered so far?
There's nothing in the chat. If anyone has a question, feel free to hop on your mic and ask it, or you can drop it in the chat and I can bring it up for you.
Okay. Okay.
We can move on for now.
Okay, great. Okay, so waist high turnstiles. We still do a lot of these. You'll see these, obviously you'll see these in different places. This says distribution centers. I don't see these a lot in distribution centers, to be honest with you. I see full height turnstiles in distribution centers, but you will still see these in some corporate buildings, some government facilities. People still like these. Everybody's familiar with these and how they work. Every single person on this call has walked through one of these and had it come up and smack you in the behind as you go through it. They do. But we did create one that has a little motor in it. It kind of goes with you as you go through it. So we call these the EDC series, but we make one called the EDM, and it's a really cool looking product too. But it does the same thing, only when you go through, when you touch that arm to go through, a little motor starts to rotate and it comes up behind you. It is a much smoother transaction than the typical one. You'll also need, if this is an area that needs ADA access, you're also going to have some kind of a swing gate for ADA access. You'll see they have that beside this one. You will see these in rec centers a lot. You'll still see these in ballparks a lot. You'll still see these in water parks. You'll see these a lot of sports and entertainment. And Alvarado has a dedicated group that does just sports and entertainment. So if you have stadiums, those guys also do ticketing solutions. They do suite entrances. We've done the Super Bowl for the last 4 years. All of their ticketing and everything through the Super Bowl, and the NFL has been crazy happy with how smooth the ticketing and the access to the Super Bowl has been. So they continue to ask us to do it, and that's a great thing for us. Not only is it a profitable thing for us to do, but it's a great promotional thing for us to be able to say that we've been trusted by the NFL, not only for multiple stadiums, but also for the Super Bowl. I mean, that's a huge event, one of the largest sporting events in the world, and they trust us for their security and their ticketing. But these waist-high turnstiles are really big in that space. Super Bowl does not use these types of turnstiles. They have something a lot more sophisticated and a lot more secure, but that's where you'll see these. You can also get these in a mechanical version that just counts. There's no card reader. So on these this is the EDC, that you'll have card readers on these, and you can do these for controlled entrance, free exit, controlled exit, or controlled entry and exit. But then there's a mechanical version that has no electric to it. It just counts, and it counts people coming and going. You can get that on a base plate with wheels. Philadelphia uses those in their baseball stadiums in some areas. A lot of venues will use those just to count people coming in and out. So a lot of different options. If you have a sports or entertainment area or a rec center, any place that doesn't have to have that really full high security thing, but they still want to, control access of members, things like that. This is a good spot for that. And again, same thing. You can powder coat these. You can do a lot of different customizations, not nearly as much as say an optical turnstile, but there's still some custom options available for these things. And these are also much less money than the optical turnstile, where your optical turnstiles are going to be up in the $30,000 to $40,000 range per lane, depending on what you get. These are going to be down in the 10, under 10 probably range. And we talked about the pedestrian gates. So this is your, again, this is your ADA compliant area. The thing to remember about a gate, and again, if you already know this, I'm sorry, but the thing about a gate versus the turnstile is the turnstile can turn, one person's going to go through. With a gate, once that gate is open, it's just open. You can hold it open as long as you want. People can go through. So this one has a camera on it. That's pretty smart to have, really. And I always quote gates with a magnetic contact switch on them. So it gives you an output anytime that door is open. It also gives you kind of an annoying buzz if you want it that way. But um, I always put something on it to let somebody know when that gate's open, because you can prop the gate open too, and you want to know if somebody does that. So that's something else just to keep in mind. This is a pretty typical deployment of this as well. You can see it's just an athletic field at a university, and they want to keep track of who's there, make sure only students are the ones using that, students and faculty using that area. So just a quick overview here of the product line. Those full height turnstiles, we've talked about all of these products. That third one over at the waist high turnstile, that's the EDM. That's the motorized version of that waist high turnstile. Anytime somebody's looking for this type of product and I promote the EDM, they usually always go with the EDM. It's a little bit more money, not a lot, but man, it's such a nicer product to go through. A lot of times we'll have these at trade shows. If you're ever at a trade show, come over to the booth and walk through some of these things, and you'll see it's just a really great. That's one of the ones when we developed it, I was a little skeptical, but once I went through it, I thought, man, that's such a nice version of a waist high turnstile. On the optical there as well, see how high that barrier is? That's the full height barrier on that optical turnstile. So you can get that as like a waist high, a chest high, 46 inch, and then a full height barrier like that. Before I go into the new stuff, I'm going to real quick on this optical turnstile. A couple of the things as well I want to make sure that I mention. These things have a lot of different variabilities, a lot of different functional things that you can do with these to tailor them to your facility. One is this has a breakaway force. So let's just say, for instance, God forbid, there's a crazy person in your facility and you need everyone to get out. Nobody's going to come up there and scan a badge and wait to go out, right? You can grab that barrier and you can shove on it. And when you shove on it, it's going to break away towards the exit direction. You can shove those barriers away and just leave. You can change the resistance of that. I think it's from 0 to 100 is the dial, and you can set it so it's as easy as just, you can use your fingers and push the thing out of the way, or you can make it so difficult that you really just got to almost break it to get it to open. So you can change that resistance. A lot of people set it somewhere in the middle, so you got to put a little weight to it and then it breaks away. But that's an adjustment that you can make and a safety feature of these. And you can also change the speed at which those barriers move. They can move very fast. You can make them move kind of slow. And one thing that I found that's a really big benefit, if you look towards the top of the channel of that top channel of that turnstile, you'll see those two black lines. That's what's picking up on your piggybacking and tailgating. And it sees an object, a space, then an object, and that's when it alarms. It's not intuitive enough to know, hey, that's somebody carrying something or whatever. And sometimes that'll happen. If you have somebody that's just exactly the right height at General Motors headquarters in Detroit, they have about 22 lanes of this. And they had a few people that would come through carrying something, and it would say they're carrying a tray of coffees and they're just the right height. It'll see that object, that space, that object, and they had a bunch of false alarms, and they called me and said, hey, these things are really becoming a headache. What can you do? I was like, yeah, well, I went up and I looked and I was watching and I saw this and I said, look, this is what's happening. Open that up. There's an adjustment you can make. So it's from the factory. I think it comes with like a 2-inch allowance for piggybacking and tailgating. That's it's too tight. I mean, we ask them, look, open that up to like 6 inches or 8 inches. If somebody's walking within 6 inches behind me, I'm going to know it, right? I mean, it's going to be hard to walk with somebody 6 inches behind you. So they opened that up to like 6 inches. They didn't compromise security at all, and it got rid of those false alarms. So that's just one of many different things that you can do to tailor these things to your specific workforce. And it's if it takes people a couple of weeks to get used to them, or whatever, if you haven't had turnstiles, just over that little bit of time, you can dial these things in. And man, they really work really smoothly with large workforces, and especially they will stack credentials. So if you're worried about throughput, it's really just an open space. When you have, say you have 10 people lined up ready to come in, if I scan those 10 badges, that turnstile is going to open and it's going to wait for 10 people to go through, and it's going to count them. Once the 10th person goes through, it's going to shut back. If 11 people try to go through, it's going to alarm, and you're going to know. And you can go back and watch your video or whatever and say, oh yeah, here's everybody that scanned. This person did not scan, and you can go find that person and say, hey, you can't do that, right? It gives you that accountability, but it also gives you that great throughput of not having to wait on that turnstile to cycle back every time. Any questions so far?
Dave, I had a question, but I think you kind of touched on it when you were talking about all the variations you can do especially with like the optical turnstiles, as far as so just so I'm clear, you can adjust the timing of how long it stays open to let someone pass through, correct?
Yeah, for sure. That
Okay.
definitely changes, and that changes on all of the products too. So you can do
Okay.
that on the full height turnstile as well, and the waist
Good
high
to
and
know.
whatever. When you scan that, it's going to give you so many seconds to go through. You can change that to 5, 10,
Okay.
15, 20, whatever, however long you want to give somebody to go through. You can make that adjustment for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, we do have some new things to offer. Security revolving doors is something that we didn't have until we were acquired by Dormakaba. Um, Dormakaba is a company that grows through acquisition, really. And years ago, they had bought Crane. Crane has been making revolving doors forever, and they've been selling those. Well, Alvarado is taking over pretty much every security aspect or pedestrian type product for Dormakaba, and we've moved that manufacturing facility. Used to be in Chicago. We've moved that to Reamstown, and we're kind of heading that up now. So we have security revolving doors that'll do anything you want them to do, really. And the great thing is they're highly customizable. For years, one of our competitors kind of run unchecked in this space, but now we are really coming at that space with this product. And you can get this thing to where it's really just a card reader in and out, and it's a really great price point too. And then you can get it where it picks up on piggybacking. Then you can get one that picks up on piggybacking and tailgating. There's just you can make the choice for yourself. What do you want this thing to do? How do I want it to look? And we can manufacture it. And another great thing about this is, like with all of our products, is this is made in the USA. Alvarado is out of Chino, California, which, yes, to date, California is still part of the United States. But I'm not. I'm actually down in Ironton, Ohio. But everything's manufactured in the United States. That's a wonderful thing. We had one product that we kept from Dormakaba called the Argus optical turnstile. We did keep that one that's manufactured in Germany, but it's being moved to California. And we have a new product called the V60. I'm going to show you in a second. That is currently manufactured in Germany. That we are also going to be moving that one to California soon as well. So this security revolving doors, you'll see this in, I mean, really anywhere. You can see a revolving door anywhere. Something that I'll stress about the revolving doors, security revolving doors, regular revolving doors that spin with no security, no problem. But for a security revolving door, these are for what we call trained traffic. You don't want to put this on the outside of your building for public people to use. They just don't know how to use it. If it's just a normal revolving door that you push your way through, sure. But if you have card readers on this thing, or you have whatever, a push button or whatever, this is for train traffic. These are for employees. People are going to use this thing every day. That's what this is for. This is the Argus that I was talking about that's still manufactured in Germany. They have countless lanes of this around the world. Not many in the United States. You tell it kind of has a European type look. They have a ton of these around the world. Um, it's pretty cost effective actually. So if you have an area where it's going to be optical turnstiles and they're like, I just don't have the budget for optical turnstiles, call me, because a lot of times this Argus will fit places where other optical turnstiles might not fit the budget, depending on what they want to do with it. Same type of stuff. It'll fit the same types of places, and the customization options are the same as the other optical turnstiles we have. A key difference is we moved away from tempered glass on a lot of our optical turnstiles because we couldn't really figure a security benefit to tempered glass on an optical turnstile. It's very heavy. It will shatter. So we went to acrylic. The acrylic is ultra clear. We coat it so it's anti-scratch. It will scuff up, but you got to. We've had them out there for years and they still look great. And you can just with a little there's a product called Novus that you can get that you kind of wipe on there with a little elbow grease. It takes those out. But it's a much lighter, greener product, those types of things. But this Argus still comes with tempered glass. So if you have somebody that's just adamant about tempered glass, this is the product that we would look towards. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to look at something else here real quick. You guys still see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. This right here is the newest product that we have. This one, I'm really, really, really excited about this. Optical turnstiles, like you saw before, they have a walk-through space. Let me go back and see. Let me show you just a second. Let's go back to this optical. Okay. So from this space right here, this walk-through, so you enter the turnstile here, you exit here. See how much space is required here? If you have this like on an elevator bank or somewhere where there's just not a lot of room, say you have a door here and your elevator starts here, you just don't have enough space to put this thing. We've run into that quite a few times, and they have to go to some kind of gate that just couldn't do all of the security that they wanted it to do, and so they didn't get the product that they wanted because they didn't have the space. We developed this thing, and guys, this product, this is called the V60. I don't know why they named it that, but they did. This is an optical turnstile. We internally developed all of the sensor technology in here. This creates like a silhouette as you go through. Usually on this type of product here, you have to have space so it can see people walking through to tell is that one person or two people. You have to have this much space. The technology, and I can't explain the technology and how it works. I've seen videos on it and how it works, but this creates a silhouette that comes out. This is 9.5 inches is all it is. This is a 9.5 inch pedestal, okay? And this will pick up on and do everything that this will do in this much space. This will do it in this much space. When they showed this to me at first, I was looking at it, I was like, well, it's just a gate. But man, when they showed me what the capability of this thing was in the space, I was impressed. And obviously the people at ISC were as well. So we took this product and we introduced it at ISC West earlier this year. And it actually won across, if you guys have been to ISC West, it's like 8 football fields huge of security products. This right here won first place, blue ribbon, on the show floor as best new product, and it's rightfully so. I'm really excited about this. So this is called the V60. Again, everything I talked about on an optical turnstile, this right here will do. Tempered glass. It's just I think it's an incredible product. So keep that in mind. I will send data sheets of all of these different products. Actually, you know what? Probably the best thing to do is to send links to them rather than just the data sheets. But I'll send a package of material to Taylor, and she can disseminate that to the group. And also, feel free. You can reach out to me anytime. We don't sell to end users. Just it's best for them to be in contact with somebody like IPS that can tend to their needs on a local basis. So, so feel free to contact me with questions if you have any questions. But I will send all of this. Let me go back to Teams. Okay.
I have a couple questions
Sure
that
thing.
have been texted to me.
Yep.
So this first one, I was told to ask if outdoor MST devices need to be called out as outdoor based in order to get the proper equipment, paints, moving parts, etc., versus indoor based MST turnstiles.
Right. The only reason that you would want to let me know if it's indoor or outdoor is if you're going to powder coat it. That's it. I mean, as far as electronics goes and the functionality, they're all the same. We do offer some environmental protection. Like if you're going to have, if this turnstile is going to be in, let's just say a coal plant, really heavy, very thin dust, you can't keep it out of anywhere. We can put the internal components inside like a NEMA enclosure, and then we can also use some products to seal that top channel. Good. Um, if you're going to put these in incredibly cold areas, now I'm talking even in Michigan doesn't qualify. I'm talking when we go up into like northern Alberta, we'll put a heater up in that top channel. There are things like that environmentally that we'll need to do. Cleveland, no problem. You can put these things without a heater in Cleveland and you're fine. But indoor, outdoor doesn't matter. It's the exact same product. But if you're going to put it outdoor and you want to powder coat it, you never want to powder coat, and this goes whether you're buying from Alvarado or any product that you're going to put outside and you're going to powder coat it. If you're going to powder coat this thing, you want to make sure that it is a powder coat over either galvanized or stainless steel. You never want to powder coat over cold rolled steel and put it outside, because no matter what, eventually that powder coating is going to crack and it's going to start to rust, and it'll rust that fast. If you're going to put it inside, do a powder coat just over the cold rolled steel because it's honestly a better finish. It's slick as glass. Um, Last thing on that topic, if you put it outside and you're going to put powder coat over either galvanized or stainless, here's the difference. Powder coat over galvanized. When we galvanize something, we hot dip galvanize. You dip this thing into a big tank, and when you pull it out, that galvanizing runs out of every hole in the thing, and you have to grind off the drips and then cold galv, right? So those hot dip products have some irregularities on their finish, like mostly like under the arms and places where that product would run out. It's still a great finish to put powder coat over galvanized. Still looks great, but you will have those irregularities under that finish that are typical from hot dipping. If you want something that is slick as glass, then you have to powder coat over stainless steel. Cost is much higher. Stainless steel is incredibly expensive. But if you have somebody that's very aesthetic conscious, even with something like that on the outside, let's just say this is a big corporation, they've got this right out front of their building. Their front barriers made up of brick and beautiful, ornamental fencing, and that type of place, powder coat over stainless. Most places just powder coat over the galv. Still looks great, but keep in mind you will see under the arms, if you get close, you got to get close, you'll see some of those irregularities under that finish. That's the only difference between indoor and outdoor.
Gotcha. And then I had another person text me a question, and they would like to know what is the life cycle of the SU5000 unit?
We've had the SU5000 out. I've been with Alvarado for 9 years, and I was doing turnstiles for about 7 before that. So we've had them out there for the SU5000 has been out there for a good 12 years, I would say. I haven't seen one reach end of life yet. We did have it in our factory just on a motor continually going. And as far as I know, it's still going. The cool thing about it, and so I can't give you a life cycle. I don't know what that life cycle is, but I can tell you that the reason that it does is because the actuation of the thing being this, instead of having to retract something or pull something up, the balance of this and the fact that it's an acrylic barrier and not heavy tempered glass, it's light. It's light. And so you're talking, we'll use a Gates belt. Gates belts are automotive belts. They're meant for high torque, really high torque movement. We're using that Gates belt to move a light piece of acrylic 2 inches. There's just not a lot of wear and tear on it. I will tell you that the life cycle, even though I don't know what that life cycle is as a definitive number to give you, it's going to be much greater than what, say, the SU3000 that has that aluminum arm that has to be pulled up every time. And we used to have a product called the SU4000 that had these big barriers that would, and some people still make these, they kind of go like this to retract and come back in. It's a terrible idea from the beginning. I mean, the way that that thing, especially if using tempered glass, to have to actually pull that heavy thing back and then shove it back forward, you're putting a lot of strain on that motor, a lot of strain on all the gears and everything. There's just not a lot of weight and not a lot of, wear and tear on the internal components of the 5000. I am I personally have been here 9 years and I'm yet to see one fail. I'm yet to see one get to end of life, and that's the honest to God truth. One thing about that acrylic barrier as well, Paul will tell you. You guys that are in Cincinnati know the tragic event that happened down at Fifth Third. That's an awful, awful event, and that event got brought up when we were doing Speedway headquarters, and they asked, well, how do yours react if they're shot? So tempered glass, actually, if you just hit it with something, it'll shatter. If you shoot it, obviously it's in a billion pieces. So they asked this question. I said, well, we haven't done this yet. Well, I live on a little cattle farm in southern Ohio, and I said, if I can get them to send me some, I'll tell you how they work. Because we have to protect our cattle from coyotes and things, so we have the ability to do those types of things. So they sent me these barriers, and I created a little piece to hold them, much like ours do, and I shot them. And it actually just breaks off in a large piece. So if you shoot that thing in the corner, so you've got a big square barrier, you shoot it towards the top left corner, that will break off in a chunk, but the rest of it's intact. Whereas a tempered glass, it's just in a billion pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's shooting it with like a 380 9mm, but then if you shoot it with an AR, it will put little holes in there. So it can't stop the round, obviously, but it'll put little holes all through it, but the barrier stays intact. It's actually a better solution for that. But anyway, that's just a kind of a side note story that Paul and I experienced when we were doing that job.
Yeah, good to know. Are there any final questions lingering out there that anyone either wants to text me or hop on your mic, drop it in the chat?
I have a comment. This is
Yeah, go for it.
Paul. Thank you. I just want to say that any situation that you guys can think of, or any area, real estate in your area that you guys can think of, a turnstile going in, Steve is unbelievable, and Alvarado, they're unbelievable in the way they can come up with a solution for you. He brought up Speedway, and they used these just to get wires in there. Instead of mounting these to the floor and coming underneath, we used these pads. We did ADA. We did all kinds of stuff. Anything you can think of. I think Alvarado has some unbelievable options for you. So please keep that in mind. If you think that hey, this might not work, give us a shot, because we could probably come up with something for you guys. These are great. The companies that we have them in for, absolutely love them. And Alvarado is just one of the leaders in the industry. So I just appreciate your time today, Steve. And we love your product, and I love working with you, and look forward to many more years.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Paul. I really do. Thank you for saying that. I will pull up a picture here real quick of these base plates just to show you before we end this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the base plates are amazing because they're small and form. They got great form factors, and they allow you to get cables in without trenching or digging up. There we go. Perfect. That's what we did at Speedway, and you wouldn't even know wires are under there. It's amazing.
Yeah. And you can even do the base plates that go out. See the infill that's on the side, that glass that comes up to the side of the turnstile? Mm-hmm. If you put these in a place like this and you have to get the wires from the wall over there, we can create custom base plates like this to go from the turnstile base plate out to the wall. So it keeps everything above ground. Obviously, I like them anchored to the floor better. I think they look a lot better. But when you have to have these, you have to have them. And they are ADA compliant, by the way.
Beautiful.
Thanks for the kind words, Paul. I really appreciate that.
All right, I've got one last final question, and then we'll close things out here. Can you do any custom glass work as far as adding logos or other details that the customer might want to see on those acrylic pieces or the glass pieces?
Yeah, there are certain areas of the panel that we can etch, and there are certain areas we can't. So if it's let me show you a couple of options here. So my boss he's from Omaha, so he's a big Nebraska fan. Let me show you just a couple of pictures here. This is one thing we were able to do. We did Nebraska athletic facility, and so we etched the side barrier. When you etch the side barrier, the side panel, and you use the LED lighting, it actually lights up the etching. We also did this same thing on, let's see, Cleveland State. Cleveland State, I think, looks amazing. Look at that.
Whoa.
That looks good.
That
you
is
can do
beautiful.
that on the sides, but when I say there are areas that you can't, see this black stripe up here on the top channel? That's, if you go from that straight across the barrier or straight across that acrylic barrier, you can't etch that because this has to be able to see there's an emitter and a receiver in that lane. And it has to be able to see through that barrier when it opens. When that barrier opens, if it's trying to look through an etching, it's going to think that there's something in the lane. It's not going to close. Other than that, all I need is a vector file. All I need is a file of what you want me to etch, and it'll be on there. We can do it on the side, or we can do it on the moving barrier, or both, which I think would probably be gaudy, but you could do it if you wanted to.
No, I think it looks really cool on the side there, especially with the different lights.
Yeah, so you can do just about anything on the etching and the lighting. The lighting, again, it's an LED light, so we can change that to any color really, as long as it's kind of an LED color. University of Pittsburgh Pitt has these in their dining facility, and they want them to be Pitt colors. And so I said, we can try. I don't know, but we worked on it, and we actually got it really close. It's kind of a darker blue, and then that gold that they have, but we got pretty close with it. So just keep in mind, they are brighter colors. It's harder to do those dark, like a navy would be impossible. But we can do different colors.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good to know. Well, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, and Steve for putting on a great presentation. I will be following up with everyone with those links to the spec sheets and more information. And if you think of anything afterwards, I'll also share the recording, so you feel free to forward that to coworkers. If you think of any questions later on, feel free to ask me, ask your IPS rep, and we will be more than happy to get you an answer. If you need a more in-depth meeting, we can arrange that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and I travel. Like I said, I'm down in Ironton, Ohio. So if you have anything in the state and you need somebody to take a look at it, I work really closely with IPS, so they can get a hold of me. And I'm on the road a lot, so it's no problem, especially anywhere in the state. Just give me a shout. I'll be glad to show up and take a look at your space with you.
Cool. Awesome. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Taylor.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Steve.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. See you soon.
Have a good day.